Welcome to Dash and Dish. Today, protein is all the craze, and my friend Caroline from Fit for His Glory is joining us in today's show, and she's going to be making some of my favorite protein treats and snacks. Our protein pack menu includes giant 1-minute breakfast cookies, creamy, dreamy, high in protein pasta, buffalo chicken dip with a surprise ingredient, and edible cookie dough with a fun monster cookie twist. I'm Katie Farrell. On today's show, we're making a protein-packed menu to satisfy. Come join us. One of my favorite ways to start the day is with protein. Protein keeps me satisfied, it stabilizes my blood sugar, it makes me feel the best that I can feel all throughout the day. So anytime I'm making any kind of breakfast, I think about how can I add protein to it? So what better way to start the day than with a giant 1-minute breakfast cookie that has 14 grams of protein. So I'm gonna start by making this cookie. We're gonna add 1/4 cup of oats, 1 tablespoon of sweetener of choice, 1 tablespoon of protein powder, 2 tablespoons of oat flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of honey, 3 tablespoons of yogurt, a pinch of salt, and a tablespoon of chocolate chips. So this recipe, what I love about it is not only is it really delicious and it adds protein, but it's so simple. You literally add a few things to a bowl, you microwave it for a minute, and it's ready. So not only is this recipe great for breakfast, but it's great for a treat, because how many times are you just thinking, I just need something sweet, like a cookie. It just sounds perfect to just have a cookie right now. But you don't necessarily want to make a cookie because you know that it's not just one cookie. You're making it usually an entire tray of cookies, and then comes the self-control to not eat the whole tray. So this is great because you're just making one single perfectly portioned cookie that has a good amount of protein in it to keep you satisfied. Now I did use oats and oat flour in this recipe. If you just have oats on hand, you don't have oat flour, you can just blend some of your oats into a flour to make the oat flour. And the protein powder in this recipe can be substituted with additional oats if you don't have protein powder, but that's where a lot of the protein comes in. We also have Greek yogurt, which adds a good amount of protein as well. So we're just gonna add everything to a bowl. We're gonna stir it up. And really the quota now for protein is to have at least 30 grams of protein per meal. That's kind of like what doctors are saying and what nutritionists and health food experts are saying is 30 grams of protein is what you should kind of aim for. And the reason being is protein, and especially anywhere from 20 to 30 grams, is really gonna keep you satisfied and keep your blood sugar stable. And it's something that I've been doing for years. I just now kind of laugh because now people are all kind of catching up to the protein trend going on. But it's something that I've been doing for so long. And really how I started to get into high protein, high fiber, looking into low glycemic index carbohydrates, healthy fats, is I started just doing my own research when I was in nursing school. Started going to the library and really researching about nutrition and thinking, how can I best fuel my body so that the food not only tastes good, but it actually makes my body feel good. And that's when I started learning about the power of protein. It has healing benefits, it helps build muscle, sustain muscle. It also really helps our bodies digest carbohydrates and sugars more slowly so that we feel better with our energy levels. It really is quite the powerful nutrient. All right, so I just scooped this cookie dough onto a plate that I sprayed with cooking spray. That's important, or else you won't get the cookie off. And then I'm just kind of forming it into a cookie shape with a spoon. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just try and make it evenly thick throughout so that it cooks evenly when you microwave it. Then we're gonna top it with my favorite part, chocolate chips. And you could leave the chocolate chips off, or you could add any kind of topping that you'd like. I feel like strawberries would also be really good on this if it was a summer morning. So we're gonna pop this in the microwave for 1 minute. If it's a little bit too soft, you could add another 30 to 60 seconds. Well, my friend Caroline is here, and she's gonna be making a creamy, high protein pasta with me today. It's so good to have you in the kitchen.
I'm so excited to be here.
Caroline is so amazing. She has such an amazing testimony of what God is doing in her life and through her in her business. So I can't wait to share all of her story with you guys. But to start, we're gonna get going on this recipe. It is so good. It is the easiest recipe to make. In fact, I told Caroline it's almost not even really a recipe. It's so easy. And it has 17 grams of protein. So really you could make this for a meal and you don't even need beef or chicken or any kind of meat as your protein. So to make this recipe, we have 1 pound of pasta that is cooked according to the box directions, 1 cup of cottage cheese, 1 cup of marinara or pizza sauce, and a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. So to make this recipe, this is how easy it is. You literally add the cottage cheese, the sauce, and Parmesan cheese to a blender. You blend it up until it's creamy and smooth, and you boil some pasta. So I think anybody can do that, and especially busy moms.
Oh, absolutely.
Very easy. So I'll have you add the cottage cheese and the sauce to the blender.
Okay.
And really you can't taste the cottage cheese. A lot of people worry about that. They're like, can you taste I don't like cottage cheese, can you taste the chunks? And that's why we blend it, because then it just makes it creamy and almost like a cheese-based sauce, but you don't realize it's actually cottage cheese. So Caroline, I would love if you shared with our viewers about how you got into what you're doing today. Tell us about Fit for His Glory and what really led you to do that.
Yeah, it's really funny because fitness for me was always something that, you know, I kind of in the past had obsessed over, and it had really truly become kind of an idol in my life. And so I had a lot of freedom happen. About 10.5 years ago, I was walking through a Bible study, a small group, and we did a few different Bible studies on just how you view fitness. And God just broke so many chains that summer in my own life. And so I decided to start sharing my journey, kind of like how you started sharing your recipes. Like I started sharing my journey, my health journey, and just how God was breaking those chains on social media. And people just kind of started listening and asking questions. And so I started, like, it just kind of kept going. And I was like, all right, Lord, I'm just going to keep taking that next yes and that next step. And so it kind of turned into a business. And I really didn't even think it was going to become that. And you know, I did it on the side while working full-time for about 7.5 years, and then went full-time with it. So it's been so cool just to see how the Lord, now we have the podcast and the membership and the merch and all the different aspects to it. But just how the Lord really worked and kind of used my story and my own struggles to share about Him.
Yeah, and we really have that in common, where we took the pain of our past and the things that were honestly brokenness in us, and we allow God to not just heal us, but also to use us in that way. And that's honestly one of the coolest things that God does, is He takes our ashes and He makes something so beautiful out of it. And I think that is really a redemption story, you know, that's turned into a business and a ministry. So we added everything to the blender. We're gonna blend it up real quick. I'll use my rag as my top, because whenever I do anything that's with sauce, I just trust a rag better, because I've had way too many splatters. All right, so this looks good. You just want to blend it for a few minutes, just until it's like really smooth. And you can also add other things to this dish. If you did want to add chicken, you can go ahead and pour that in. Okay. If you wanted to add vegetables, roasted vegetables, that would be good as well. And I'll give you the spatula if you want to kind of scrape the rest in there. And then I did save a little bit of the pasta water. So when you're done boiling the pasta, you can save just a little bit of water and add it at the end if you feel like it's too thick. If you need to thin out the sauce just a little bit, you can kind of stir it and see how it is and see if you want to add that pasta water at the end. That just helps kind of thin the sauce out. And then you can, of course, top it with Parmesan cheese or whatever you'd like. But Carolina, I can't wait to get into some more recipes with you and continue to talk about your journey and what God's doing in your life. Coming up next, buffalo chicken dip made healthy, naturally low in carbs, thanks to a surprise ingredient. You will want to make this recipe again and again. So when it comes to protein, there are so many great sources of protein that are outside of what you may consider to be a protein source. I think a lot of us think of meat when we think of protein, but I'm going to show you some of my favorite protein sources that are really quick and easy to just toss into a recipe or maybe something that you're eating, and it really is a great grab and go protein source. My first, and I think my most favorite, is cottage cheese and yogurt. When it comes to cottage cheese and yogurt, the biggest thing is you can blend them into anything, you can mix them into a recipe, or you can honestly just eat it as a snack. So it's a really good option. Cottage cheese has 13 grams of protein and yogurt is about the same for just a half cup. The only thing is with yogurt, you wanna make sure you watch your sugar content, make sure it doesn't have a lot of added sugar to kind of cancel out that protein. Another great option are beans. My favorite are garbanzo beans or chickpeas. You can add them to a salad, you can roast them and snack on them. They're really delicious and they have 6 grams of protein per serving. I also love this protein pasta. There are a lot of great pasta options that have added protein and fiber today. So this one has 10 grams of protein per serving. That's enough that you could honestly make a meal out of it without any meat at all. And then I also love hard-boiled eggs. You can buy them hard-boiled just to save some time. You can grab them and take them with you on the go as a snack, or you can chop them up, have them in an egg salad or for breakfast. And I also love protein powder that is in the form of peanut flour or protein powder. So here I have, it's PB Fit peanut butter powder. You can choose any brand though, and it's great because it tastes like peanut butter. You can add it to your yogurt, you can add it to a recipe, or you can make it into a peanut butter by adding a little bit of water to it. It has 7 grams of protein per serving, and then bone broth protein powder is great if protein powder hurts your stomach, the whey, the dairy. This is a really good option. It's just made with organic bone broth powder, and it has 21 grams of protein. Again, you can add this to a smoothie, some yogurt, you can add it to any recipe, and really you don't even taste it. So here are some really good protein options to add to your diet to get some extra protein in. All right, so now we're on to a lunch or dinner dish that's high in protein, and this is actually a low carb dish as well. So if you're looking for something that's high in protein, lower in carbs, this is the perfect dish for you. Although we make it low carb with cauliflower rice, and you could always just use white rice or brown rice as well if you wanted to add a little bit of healthy carbs to it. So in this recipe, we have a 10-ounce bag of cauliflower rice, 3 cups of cottage cheese, a half cup of shredded cheese, a half cup of feta cheese, 2 cups of chicken, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, a half cup of hot sauce, and 1 egg. So we're gonna start by making the buffalo sauce, and this is a really creamy sauce because again, we use cottage cheese. And you could also use Greek yogurt for this, that would also work really well. So we're gonna add everything to a blender just like we did with our pasta. We're gonna make a creamy sauce and you won't even know that cottage cheese is in there. So I'm gonna have you add the hot sauce, egg, and the seasonings, and then I'll add the feta and the cottage cheese to the blender. And you wanna start with just cooked pulled chicken. So like rotisserie chicken or leftover chicken works well. So Caroline, we met actually through Instagram.
Yep.
And so it was like, what, 10 years that we
Yeah,
met each
10
other?
years ago, I think we connected on Instagram.
Yeah. And so we actually never even met in person until I moved to Tennessee. And she reached out to me and she was like, hey, I think you're like 10 minutes away from me. And so she invited me to like a mom's group that she hosted. And I was like, oh my gosh, someone's inviting me to something. So I was so excited because I didn't know anybody here except for Caroline. And so one of the things that I love most is that we've been able to go on a lot of walks together.
Yes.
And on our walks, we've just talked about, oh gosh, everything under the sun. We usually run out of time before we run out of stuff to talk about. That's how you know it's a God friendship, is that you can just talk with someone. All right, so I'm gonna blend the sauce up.
You're making me a little nervous blending it without the top on.
Oh, we actually did. We got a spoon stuck one time and stuff flew everywhere.
This beautiful white
Yeah,
kitchen.
that happened.
That's funny.
All right, so now you can see how good that looks, nice and creamy. So we're gonna add it to our cauliflower rice, which we did thaw out in the microwave, but you could also just use, like I said, cooked rice in this dish as well. Caroline, why don't you share your story about like different seasons of life that have kind of been a struggle for you as well when it comes to just letting God really remind you of your beauty and your worth in Him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, I think back to like college, I mean, just always wanting to be thinner, always chasing the next diet, like never feeling like it was enough, if that makes sense. Like always wanting a lower number and a lower number, like becoming so obsessed with the scale. And realizing that, you know, I had an intimate relationship with Jesus, but like I hadn't really invited Him into that area of my life. I was kind of compartmentalizing things. And for the first time, just really starting to pray like, Lord, help me to be disciplined with my workouts. Help me to be disciplined with nourishing my body well. And it was just kind of like this, you know, moment where it clicked. And then heading into, I mean, I'm sure you experienced this, like when we were getting married, like me and my husband, like preparing for the wedding and the pressure that comes with that of like looking good in your dress and all the things and feeling that pressure from culture.
Yeah.
And then, so I think there's like been different seasons and then getting into like motherhood. I mean, I've had 3 babies now, and with each one, kind of feeling that pressure to bounce back, specifically with my first one.
Yeah.
And experiencing like, no, like that's not what it's about anymore. And I think a lot of it was just laying it at the feet of Jesus and allowing Him to fill those holes in my heart.
Yeah.
And then from there, you know, pursuing fitness as a way to steward my body well and serve my family.
Yeah.
You know, I always tell people, I'm like, you want to take care of your body like it depends on you, but know that ultimately it doesn't.
Yeah, that's
you know,
so good.
like it's that's what surrendering it looks like.
Yeah, that's so good. And I'll tell you, I think one of the hardest is, just like you said, when you get married, there's so much pressure from our culture to look like perfection in your wedding dress. But really, you know, if we think about what marriage really is and like what a holy union, like it really is not about that at all.
Oh, absolutely.
And then again, with motherhood, like there's so much pressure to look a certain way and like bounce back. And like you said, with my first, that was the same as me. I just like felt all this pressure. And then I realized with Ollie that I missed so much of her being a baby because I was so worried about me. You know? And so I just fully embraced his baby,
Yes.
you know, the baby year. And I was like, I'm just not even going to worry about me. And God took care of me, you know, when I laid down, just like you said, surrender. When I laid down myself and my body and my wants and desires, that was when God really taught me what was most important and ultimately took care of me, you know?
Absolutely.
So this looks so good, doesn't it? And it's not even
amazing.
baked yet. So when it's baked, it's gonna be so good. And we're gonna top it with cheese. You could do mozzarella or cheddar, whatever kind of cheese you like. So we're gonna bake it 425 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes.
This looks so good.
Coming up next, we can't forget dessert. This cookie dough recipe is high in protein with a fun monster cookie twist. Caroline is a mom, like we mentioned, to 3 little kids, and our kids are pretty close in age.
Yeah.
Your oldest and youngest are the age of my 2 kids, just about.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have a lot that we talk about when it comes to being a mom, because I feel like moms are in this idea, especially with social media, that women have it all together, and then the areas that you feel like you're failing, it just feels like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one, you know? Especially when it comes to feeding your kids. Don't you feel like there's so much judgment? Especially for me, like doing Dashing Dish, people are like, oh, I'm sure that she never feeds her kids sugar or anything. And it's not true. We have M&Ms here for a reason. Like, I don't eat perfect. I don't feed my kids perfect. We just try and make the best choices as much as we can, you know?
I remember coming to your house to make cookies at Christmas, and I was like, oh, did you make this icing from scratch? And you're like, actually, this one's store-bought.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's like real life. That's motherhood. So we're going to be making one of my kids' favorite treats, and I guarantee you'll love it as well as your kids. It's a high-protein cookie dough, and we're putting like a monster cookie spin on it. So we're using some M&Ms, but you could use any kind of candy that you like, or you could just do chocolate chips. So really it's just a oatmeal cookie dough if you don't add the M&Ms. So for this recipe, we're gonna use 1/2 cup of oats, a 1/2 cup of protein powder, a 1/4 cup of oat flour, 1/4 cup of sweetener, 1/4 cup of applesauce, a 1/4 cup of peanut butter, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips, and 3 tablespoons of M&Ms. And for this recipe, you will want to use water as well to kind of bring it together, but add that at the very end because you want to add just a few tablespoons at a time as you need it. So just wait till the end to add the water. So you can go ahead and add our sweetener, oat flour, oats, and I'll do the protein powder and applesauce and peanut butter.
Perfect.
So tell me about, let's just get real and share, like, what are some things that you feel like you're failing in motherhood?
Oh,
because I guarantee you we're not the only ones.
Yeah. I feel like constantly in motherhood, I'm fighting, especially because we're working moms too.
Yes.
It is hard, the pressure of like, I want to feel fully present, but also do a really good job at my job and you know, give my best there. So I do feel like there's this constant pull, especially with our businesses, like being on social media, and I want to be available for my clients. And so there is this constant pull of like, okay, I want to be fully present here. And so feeling like sometimes, you know, I'm not fully turning off work and being fully present. I try really hard.
So true.
And then probably too, like, I'm constantly like, do my kids watch too much TV?
Yes, yes.
I'm like, we try to limit it to like 1 show a day, but I feel like that's like, I'm constantly like, because, you know, there's some moms who do no TV, which is amazing. And then there's some moms who, you know, they're like, whatever. And so I'm like, what's our balance?
Yeah, and even that is social media. Because there's all these things on social media of like, no screen time for kids, day 500. And I'm like, wait, you went 500 days with no screens? What? I'm failing at everything, you know? It's so true. And so there is like such a balance to everything. And so really, I just try and remind myself all the time that as long as I really feel like I'm putting things in the priorities that God has called me to, then I know I'm doing the right thing, you know? And I'm constantly questioning myself on that as well. Yeah. So
I feel like I'm constantly praying like, God, do more with my hour of work than I can with like 3 hours. You know, just asking him to maximize that time. And that way I can like turn that off and then be present with my family. Because at the end of the day, like I'm serving my clients and I love that job, but it's also a way to provide for my family. Yeah. So just looking at it as a way to serve my family in that way too.
That's good. That's good. So I'm kind of stirring this together. I just added, you can add really as much as you want as far as chocolate chips and M&Ms. And then you could put it into cute little jars like this, and you can kind of just keep it in your fridge, just in a sealed container. Or you can just sit on the couch and have some straight from your jar.
Can I eat some now?
Go ahead, try it out.
This looks amazing. I love edible cookie dough.
Yes, and honestly, it does taste good. I think better chilled. So if you put it in the fridge, it is so good if you have it chilled. And I like to have something in my fridge that's high in protein, and you can just kind of pull it out and just take a bite of it. And you know, it's like a nice sweet treat and you don't feel like you have to eat the whole thing to be satisfied. So that's what I love about protein.
Oh yeah,
And
me
protein
too.
is like the new thing, isn't it?
It really is.
It's really, people are really finding out about how good it really is for you, and it really keeps you satisfied throughout the day too. So I think we should enjoy this and then go on a little walk. What do
Yeah,
you
let's
think?
do it.
All right, let's do it. Well, Caroline, it was so much fun to cook with you today. I just love chatting with you, and I love making high protein dishes because that's something that we both love as well.
Well, you know that I make your recipes all the time and share them with my community, so I'm excited. It's fun, just like being in the kitchen with you and making some recipes today.
It was so fun, and I love chatting with you too. It's so good. So if you would love to find recipes that are just like the ones that we made today, you can head over to dashanddish.com, where you'll find recipes and more to nourish your body and soul.